So, Jamie, we're looking at you working on John. Can you tell me what you're doing here?
This is just an effleurage, it's called. It's to cause vasodilation or open up the blood vessels and get everything flowing. You'll see I'm working towards the heart and towards the lymphatics, which are located in John's armpits there, where my hands are going to. And again, this is for drainage, and also I always say to wake things up, to get blood flowing and to get fluids pumping through the body.
And I can see a rhythm there.
Yeah, well, rhythm's a huge factor, and also to maintain contact. You'll see as one hand is sliding over, the other is already coming onto his body. You always want to keep in mind your contact and your flow and your rhythm.
Can you give me a sense of how much actual pressure you're applying at that point?
You have to adjust your pressure to the contours of the body. The crest of his neck, there's a lot of muscle tissue there. I can use quite a bit of pressure. As I come over the scapula or the shoulder blade here, there's a spine of the scapula, we call that. There's a lot of bony prominences on the scapula. So we lighten the pressure up a little bit there.
So you're actually adjusting the power of touch or the use of your hands depending on the anatomy and the physiology of the horse.
That's right. And also the horse itself. I mean, every horse is different. Older horses tend to not like so much deep pressure, whereas the more muscular, like the quarter horse type, they just love the pressure. They can't get enough.
And will you adjust what you're doing with your hands right there? Will that be adjusted depending on the particular conformation of a horse?
Not so much the but again, conformation relates back to what I was saying about the bony prominences. Some horses conformationally have a lot more angles, maybe less muscle mass, therefore more bony prominences or bones sticking out.
And I think I just saw you working on an actual muscle there, or was that a ligament or a tendon when you used both hands there?
I think I was probably over the triceps, the lateral head of the triceps, I believe. The triceps are a shoulder flexor. They're a huge muscle group, pretty much in all disciplines. Jumpers use it to tuck up the forelimbs.
And in the fore, how are all these muscle systems and joint systems interconnected?
Well, we group them all differently. We have the neck flexors and the neck extensors. The neck flexors are almost like John's throat. The neck extensors run across the crest of the neck. Same with the shoulder. With every articulation or joint, we have extensors and flexors. So
And I notice too that after slightly more vigorous work in a particular area, you go back to that
back to the
effleurage.
drainage. Always incorporate the effleurage. Always incorporate the drainage after every technique. As I get more specific and I use more pressure, I'm causing a lot of chemical changes. I'm breaking up a lot of tissues. There's probably a lot of lactic acid and things like that being released. So we always need to drain.
And there you're doing a little more of a kind of, I don't know how to
Deportment,
describe.
we call them.
You know, these are all French. Yeah, these are all French words. Tapoter.
Yeah, that's right.
And what are you doing when you're doing the tapotement?
There's many different types of deportments. The one I was doing there, it's actually called beating, is what it's called. We only use it over a lot of muscle mass. Again, we don't want to bruise anything, such as the shoulder flexors, what I was working on there, the triceps and deltoids. Again, it tends to loosen up the muscle tissue. The pressure tends to compress, and when you release, the muscles tend to loosen up. It's also stimulating. In John's case here, his shoulder flexors aren't as developed. He is a younger horse. He hasn't done a whole lot, so there's a lot of stimulating techniques that I use on him just to help promote the muscle growth.
And can you tell me what's happening neurologically in John right at the moment? What's happening in his brain as you're giving this treatment?
Well, John's a funny horse. He is relaxed, but as you can see, he's very busy. He's a very busy horse. There's always lots going on with John. I find he's always looking for a communication. Some can relax and, let me do my thing, but not so much John. He always wants to communicate with me. He's always at my clothes, looking at my hips, checking out, my hands. He really likes that contact. There's all different reasons as to why that could be. I think as a young horse, as with young people, he's a little bit insecure. I think he likes to have that contact, that comfort from people.
And so when you go back to the effleurage, as you're doing it right now, for example, that's a reassurance to him that this treatment is good.
Right, back to something soothing again, something comfortable for him. Oh, I remember this.
And now you're working on the upper part of the leg. And tell me what you're doing there.
We always work up the limb. As my hands come down, I'm not actually using any pressure. The only reason why I'm coming down again is to maintain the contact. I don't want to take my hands off the horse and start again at the bottom and come back up, maintain contact. The reason I'm going up again is towards the heart and towards the lymphatic center in his armpit there. Some horses get agitated when you go against the hair. So we use a pumping, which is what I'm doing now. It's more of a pumping action. I'm not ruffling the hair up so much, but I'm still encouraging the fluids to move up the limb. If we rub downward, I see a lot of people rubbing horses down. And what happens is all your fluids are going down to the fetlock around the hoof, and they pool there. There's nowhere for them to go. That's when you get horses that stock up.
And that's why you need to know how the horse's leg has evolved.
Absolutely. Education's a huge factor, not just for massage therapists, but for horse owners in general. Like I said, many people wrap legs after they ride. They'll rub on a liniment. I always say, when you guys rub on your liniments, rub upward. Always rub upward.
Just watching that, I can see how good that feels. What's John feeling right at the moment in the leg?
With John, I believe he seems a little bit ticklish to me too. He's always very fidgety. These muscles have never been touched like this before on him. He's never had these manipulations done to him before me, so he's still getting used to it. It's a strange feeling at first, As people, we're used to contact all the time. Horses, not so much, especially on this area around the legs.
So new muscles in a new horse, i.e. a young horse, require an introduction.
Absolutely, and it's just like us. We use our hands all the time. Our hands aren't very sensitive, whereas we may be more ticklish around our sides or our stomachs, whatnot. The areas that don't have contact so much. In this case, being John's forearm.
Now you're working on the joint there, and there's a very subtle thing you're doing there. Can you explain that?
That's a vibration. That's a fine vibration. Fine vibes are used to help dissipate fluid. Again, to help, it's stimulating to help get fluids going, and the fine vibes, as opposed to coarse vibes, can also have a relaxing or a soothing effect on the horse.
And then you worked on the lower part of the leg.
Right. The reason we start at the uppermost is to warm up those tissues so that when we do move down to the lower aspect of the limb, the fluids and blood have somewhere to go. It's already warmed up above, up top.
Okay, so you're creating heat, you're creating friction, you're creating blood flow, and there must be hundreds of little muscles in there that are responding and relaxing.
Yeah, tendons, ligaments, and muscle bellies, and also the deeper tissues that we can't get to directly, like say check ligaments, help attach a ligament. So things like that, we're not going to put our hands on directly, but reflexly or secondarily, they do become soothed or stimulated, depending on what you want to achieve.
Now you're working on the pastern at the moment.
Yeah, I'm actually scratching the coronet band. That's something I tell owners to do also. I mean, you can't cause any damage by scratching the coronet band. It's great to, again, stimulate activity, get blood circulation going. It's a great thing to do on horses that have laminitis or any sort of foot issues going on at all. And it becomes relaxing. They actually start to really enjoy having that area scratched.
Now, a very important part, the tendons. Are you working on the flexor tendons
That's
here?
right. The reason why I lift up the leg is to get them to relax so that I can actually get my fingers in between the 3 different flexor tendons that run down